Hello, and welcome back to another module of Leadership in Agentic AI. The previous four modules covered what Agentic AI is, how it is architected, how to make the economic case for it, and how to govern it securely. All of that is necessary. None of it is sufficient. The question that ultimately determines whether an Agentic AI strategy succeeds or fails in your organization is not technological. It is organizational. Can your people adapt to a world where their role has fundamentally changed? Can your leadership team manage a workforce that is managing agents? And can you retain, develop, and fairly evaluate people whose value is now measured by the quality of their oversight rather than the volume of their output? This module addresses those questions directly. It is the module that I find most senior leaders have been waiting for, because it is the one that affects them and their teams most immediately. Hello, and welcome back to another module of Leadership in Agentic AI. The previous four modules covered what Agentic AI is, how it is architected, how to make the economic case for it, and how to govern it securely. All of that is necessary. None of it is sufficient. The question that ultimately determines whether an Agentic AI strategy succeeds or fails in your organization is not technological. It is organizational. Can your people adapt to a world where their role has fundamentally changed? Can your leadership team manage a workforce that is managing agents? And can you retain, develop, and fairly evaluate people whose value is now measured by the quality of their oversight rather than the volume of their output? This module addresses those questions directly. It is the module that I find most senior leaders have been waiting for, because it is the one that affects them and their teams most immediately. Let me start with the most important reframe in this module, because everything else follows from it. In the old paradigm, an employee's value was derived from execution, speed of output, volume of tasks completed, adherence to established processes. Performance management was fundamentally a measurement of throughput. This model was rational. Humans were the primary execution resource. That model is now obsolete for a growing category of knowledge work. In the new paradigm, an employee's value is derived from orchestration, the ability to define goals and constraints for agents, to handle the complex exceptions that agents cannot resolve, and to continuously improve the systems they oversee. Performance management becomes a measurement of system-level thinking and judgment quality. This is not a marginal shift. It is a category change. And the leadership challenge that the slide articulates deserves a moment of direct attention. You are no longer managing a team of 10 humans. You are managing a team of 10 humans who each manage a team of 100 autonomous agents. The leverage has changed. The accountability has changed. And the skills required to operate effectively in that structure are not the skills most of your current managers were hired and developed for. Before we look at the leadership mental model shifts, I want to give you the vocabulary for the four specific roles that replace the single role of manual executor in an agentic workflow. These four roles will come up throughout the rest of the module, in the case study discussion, in the workshop, and in the reflection. Architect. The architect designs the system. They define the agent's goals, constraints, and operating parameters. They translate business intent into agent instructions, deciding what the agent is authorized to do and what is out of scope. This is fundamentally a strategic design role, and it requires a deep understanding of both the business domain and the agent's capabilities and failure modes. Executor. The executor manages the run. They monitor live agent performance, handle task routing, and manage escalation to human review when the agent encounters something outside its parameters. They are the operational layer of human oversight. In an HOTL model, the executor is the person watching the dashboard and ready to intervene. Reviewer. The reviewer catches the exceptions. When the agent flags an output as uncertain, high stakes, or outside its confidence threshold, the reviewer makes the judgment call. This is where deep domain expertise matters most. The reviewer is not verifying that the agent followed instructions. They are determining whether the agent's output is correct in the context of the full complexity of the situation, which often includes context the agent did not have access to. Learner. The learner improves the system. They feed back on agent errors and near misses, refine instructions, tighten constraints, and update operating parameters based on what they have observed. The learner's contribution compounds over time. Better instructions produce better outputs, which reduce the reviewer's burden, which allows the architect to extend the agent's operating parameters with greater confidence. One person may hold all four roles for straightforward workflow, or a team may distribute them. In the case study discussion, you will map these roles to specific functions in your organization. The four roles define what individual contributors do. This slide addresses what their leaders need to do differently. The traditional leader manages people and tasks. They assign work, monitor completion rates, and serve as the repository of expertise that the team draws on. They optimize existing processes for speed and cost. This is a fundamentally human-centered management model, and it was appropriate for organizations where humans were the primary execution resource. The agentic leader architects systems. They design workflows where humans and agents collaborate, with explicit human roles at each stage. They are valued not for having the right answers, but for framing the right questions and goals for the agents in their system. And they focus on effectiveness, not optimizing what already exists, but leveraging autonomy to pursue capabilities that were previously out of reach. The leadership mandate at the bottom of this slide is worth reading carefully. You are no longer managing a team of human doers. You are managing a team of human managers who each oversee a fleet of digital agents. The management layers have changed. The span of control has changed. And the nature of accountability has changed in ways that most leadership development programs have not yet addressed. The shift from doers to managers of agents requires changes to three core HR frameworks. These are not future state considerations. They are present tense requirements for any organization that has already deployed agentic AI in production. Job descriptions. A job description that lists tasks the agent now performs is a job description for a role that no longer exists. Roles must shift from specifying manual execution activities to defining outcomes, system oversight responsibilities, and the judgment standards that apply to exception handling. A financial analyst job description does not say, reconciles accounts. It says, ensures the integrity of reconciliation outputs, manages the escalation of flagged anomalies, and maintains the agent's operating parameters. This is not a subtle wording change. It is a different role. And the people who currently hold that role deserve clarity about what the new role looks like before the agent is deployed, not after they discover their original job description no longer reflects what they spend their time doing. Performance metrics. Evaluating an employee on the speed and accuracy of work that an agent now performs is not just inaccurate. It is demoralizing, and it creates the wrong incentives. An employee measured on their manual output has no reason to invest time in improving the agent's performance, even though that investment would generate substantially more organizational value. The new metrics measure orchestration quality. How effectively does this person manage their human agent team? They measure edge case handling. When the agent fails, how well does this person resolve the exception? And they measure continuous improvement. Is this person making the agent measurably better over time? Career ladders. The traditional management track assumed that progression meant managing larger numbers of human direct reports. In an agentic organization, the most valuable people are not necessarily those who manage the most humans. They may be the domain experts who train and refine the most critical agents, or the AI orchestrators who design and manage the most complex human agent workflows. These new progression paths need to be articulated and valued before deployment. Organizations that create these roles after the fact, in response to retention pressure, will have already lost the people who needed to hear that their expertise was valued. The third learning objective for this module is leading change management. This slide gives you the three-phase playbook. Phase 1. Acknowledge and inform. Be direct about what is changing and why. Ambiguity breeds anxiety faster than almost anything else in an organizational change. Employees who do not know what the agent will do, or what their role looks like after deployment, will fill that void with their worst assumptions. Tell them what the agent does, what it does not do, and what their new role looks like. Do not promise job security you cannot guarantee. Promise clarity, genuine investment in their transition, and a specific plan. Vague reassurance is worse than no reassurance, because it erodes trust when the reality differs from what was implied. Phase 2. Skill and role redesign. Train people explicitly for the four roles: architect, executor, reviewer, learner. Do not assume that employees will self-direct into new roles because it is obviously in their interest to do so. The cognitive and emotional transition from being valued as a skilled executor to being valued as an orchestrator is more difficult than it appears from the outside, particularly for experienced professionals whose identity is bound up in their craft. Update job descriptions and career paths before deployment, not after. Retroactive redesign sends a signal that the organization did not think carefully about the people implications before proceeding. That signal is hard to undo. Phase 3. Measure and reinforce. Update performance metrics to reward the new behaviors before the old metrics have been in place long enough to send the wrong signals. Celebrate early wins publicly. The first employee who measurably improves an agent's accuracy, or who catches a high-stakes exception that the agent missed, should be visible to the organization as an example of what success looks like in the new model. The core principle, which the banner at the bottom of this slide states directly: trust is built through transparency, not through reassurance. Employees do not resist agentic AI because they fear technology. They resist it because they fear being left behind. Show them precisely what the path forward looks like and invest in them to walk it. The case study for this module is Google Customer Engineering's deployment of an agentic system for technical proposal writing. I have chosen this case not because the deployment was straightforward, but because the initial failure is more instructive than many successful deployments. Google's customer engineering team deployed an agent to automate the drafting of complex technical proposals and architecture diagrams for enterprise clients. The technical capability was real. The agent was genuinely better than the average first draft, and yet initial adoption was low. Engineers did not trust the agent's outputs. Some viewed it as a threat to the expertise that defined their professional value. Others did not distrust it actively, but found themselves manually verifying every step the agent took, a pattern the slide calls shadow work. The net effect was that the organization was paying the cost of running the agent while also absorbing the full labor cost of doing the work manually. It was worse than either approach alone. The collaboration model that turned adoption around. 3 changes made the difference. First, engineers were formally retrained as directors rather than executors. They provided high-level strategic intent, the client's business context, the architectural constraints, the competitive positioning. The agent handled the execution. The framing change was not cosmetic. It changed what engineers were being evaluated on and what they were being asked to bring to the table. Second, human effort was explicitly concentrated on complex edge cases and agent instruction refinement. This gave experienced engineers a visible and valued role that the agent genuinely could not replace. The edge cases that fell outside the agent's parameters were not a failure of the system. They were where expert human judgment was most clearly irreplaceable. Third, and most significantly, performance metrics were updated to reward engineers for the total output of their human agent team, not just their individual manual work. An engineer whose agent was producing 40 proposals a week of consistently high quality was more valuable than an engineer who was personally drafting 10. Once the metrics reflected that, the incentive to invest in the agent's quality changed fundamentally. The central question for this discussion: how do we map the architect, executor, reviewer, learner model to functions in your organization? This is what I see. The architect role. In a marketing department, what does it look like when a copywriter stops writing copy and starts designing the prompt architecture for a content generation agent? This is a concrete question about what the architect role looks like for a specific person in a specific function. Work through the job description change. What does this person's week look like before agentic deployment versus after? What skills do they need that they do not currently have? And what skills that currently define their professional identity become less central to their performance evaluation? The reviewer role. If an agent executes 90% of the work, how do you prevent human reviewers from becoming complacent and rubber stamping the agent's output? This is the automation complacency problem, and it is one of the most well-documented failure modes in human-machine systems. When a system is correct 95% of the time, the human reviewer quickly learns to approve without scrutiny, which means the 5% of cases that require human judgment are precisely the ones that do not receive it. Work through what the reviewer role design needs to include to prevent that failure mode. The learner role. How do you ensure that junior staff still learn the fundamentals of the business if the agent is performing all the entry-level work? This is the talent pipeline question, and it is one that many organizations have not yet addressed. The grunt work that junior employees have historically done was not just low-value output. It was on-the-job education. An analyst who has spent 3 years manually reconciling accounts understands the data, the exceptions, and the business logic in ways that an analyst who has spent 3 years reviewing agent flags does not. Work through what deliberate learning structures need to replace that incidental education. Using the HR templates provided, redesign the annual performance review for the role described in the scenario. The scenario. A financial analyst who was previously evaluated on the speed and accuracy of manual spreadsheet reconciliation. An agent now handles 95% of reconciliations autonomously. The analyst only reviews flagged anomalies and updates the agent's logic. There are 4 deliverables. Define the new role. Shift the job description from manual execution to system orchestration and exception handling. The revised description should not include any task that the agent now performs. It should describe the analyst's role in terms of the 4 human roles. What architect responsibilities do they have? What does their executor function look like? What are the reviewer standards they are held to? And how is their learner contribution measured? Establish KPIs. Create 3 new key performance indicators that measure the employee's ability to manage and improve the agent. Each KPI should be specific, measurable, and clearly differentiated from the individual output metrics they replace. A KPI that says demonstrates good judgment on edge cases is not a KPI. It is a sentiment. Work through what the measurement mechanism looks like. Design the review. How will you evaluate their judgment on edge cases where the agent failed? This is the most important design question in the exercise. The performance review needs a methodology for assessing the quality of decisions made under ambiguity, not just the volume of correct decisions made when the answer was clear. Work through what evidence the review draws on and how it distinguishes excellent exception handling from adequate exception handling. Your deliverable is a completed agentic performance evaluation framework ready to present to the CHRO. The pitch should be 5 minutes. Be prepared to defend each KPI against the objection that it cannot be measured objectively. You may pause the video to try this. It should not take you more than 30 minutes. Let's debrief on the workshop. There are 3 dimensions for the debrief. 1. Measuring orchestration. How effectively did teams shift the focus from individual manual output to the total output of the human agent team? This is the most fundamental shift in the framework, and it is also the most frequently underspecified. Groups often include a metric like manages agent performance effectively without defining what effective management looks like, how it is measured, or what the baseline is. The most useful orchestration KPI I have seen in practice measures the delta between the agent's accuracy at the start of a review period and at the end, and attributes that improvement to the analyst's learner contribution. That is a specific, attributable, and meaningful measure of orchestration quality. 2. The edge case premium. Do the new frameworks adequately reward employees for successfully resolving complex exceptions that the agent could not handle? This is where domain expertise is most clearly valued, and it is also the hardest to specify. The challenge is that excellent exception handling is, by definition, the handling of novel situations. You cannot write a rubric for situations you have not yet encountered. The more effective approach is a qualitative assessment mechanism. A regular review of a sample of the analyst's exception decisions by a senior reviewer, with explicit evaluation against criteria such as speed of resolution, accuracy of diagnosis, quality of agent instruction update, and escalation judgment. This requires investment, but it is the only way to evaluate judgment rather than just output. 3. Continuous improvement. How are employees incentivized to refine the agent's instructions and improve its accuracy over time? This is the learner role, and it is the one most frequently omitted from performance frameworks entirely. If there is no explicit KPI for agent improvement contribution, the organization is receiving that value as a free benefit of individual initiative, which is not a sustainable model. The most effective incentive structures I have seen treat agent improvement contributions the same way they treat product improvements in engineering. They are tracked, attributed, and rewarded. An analyst who identifies and corrects the systematic pattern of agent errors is creating durable value for the organization. That contribution should appear on their performance record. There are 3 takeaways to close the series. First, the workforce must transition from being doers to being managers of agents. This transition is not optional, and it is not gradual in the way that previous technology transitions were. Agentic AI is being deployed at a speed that gives organizations less time to prepare their workforce than previous automation waves allowed. The organizations that will navigate this well are those that have already started the redesign. Job descriptions, career paths, performance metrics, and training programs that reflect the new reality rather than the old one. Second, leadership mental models must shift from managing people and tasks to architecting systems. The skills that made someone an excellent manager in a human execution model are not the skills that make someone an excellent manager in an agentic model. System design thinking, goal specification, constraint setting, and exception management are different competencies from task assignment and completion monitoring. Identifying which of your leaders have already developed these competencies and investing in those who have not is a strategic priority. Third, HR frameworks must be redesigned to reward orchestration and system-level thinking. If your performance management system still measures an employee on the volume of tasks they complete manually, it is creating incentives that work against agentic AI adoption. The redesign is not complicated in principle. It is the recognition that what the organization values has changed and that the measurement system must follow. The workshop today produced working examples of what that redesign looks like. The deliverable you have built is a starting point, not a finished framework. Take it back and test it against your actual workforce. Individual reflection. The reflection prompt for this final module. Think of your highest performing employee today. If an agent could do 80% of their manual work tomorrow, what new skills would they need to learn to remain your highest performer next year? That answer tells you what your talent investment priority is. It also tells you what your leadership development priority is. Because the leader who can answer that question for their team and then actually develop those skills in their people is the leader who will build the most capable human agent organization in your industry. That is the end of the Leadership in Agentic AI series. Thank you for your engagement across all 5 modules. The work continues.